When I was in college seminary during the mid-90s, we were in a building that was constructed to hold 120 collegians. When I was there, we had 36, a quarter of the population. And a quarter of that population had been set aside, or rather was being filled by men who had what we call delayed vocations, had gone and followed another career path and realized, I think I'm called to be a priest. And so older men studying for the priesthood filled one floor. So each one of us, college guys, had a double room to ourselves and an empty room in between every one of our groups. I'm not going to lie, the space was kind of nice. But nevertheless, here we are in a practically empty building. Something is wrong. And we had a new rector my first year going there, and he recognized something was wrong. We had to do something, because we're spending money keeping this building heated in the cold Minnesota winters and keeping this alive for 30-some guys. What do we have to do? Do we have to start closing floors off? Do we have to start thinking of new ways to bring different kinds of people in? What are we going to do? And the solution that the rector devised was twofold. Number one, we have to make this place ready for men. And so he spent money, as it were, to make money. He had the place given a facelift. He had the place marketed in a new way, with a new image that let people know that this was not the college seminary of old. This was a new place to be at. Giving bishops confidence. If you send your men here, they are going to learn the faith of the church. It's not going to be some experimental thing. It's not going to be some divisive thing. It is going to be the faith of the church, and they will be trained in that tradition. But bishops can't send men to a seminary if they don't have men to send. And so the second portion, and I think the more critical, was that every Thursday he had a holy hour, or rather a day-long holy hour, if that makes sense, where the Eucharist would be exposed at morning prayer and remain on the altar exposed until Mass at 9 p.m. that night. And every one of us were to take an hour and pray for vocations. Pray that that seminary would be full one day. In less than a decade, 120 men filled the halls of that seminary. And today, it is full enough that they have to rent houses in the neighborhood of the university so that the seniors can live off campus, because there isn't enough room in a building where we had too much room not long ago. Prayer, penance, coming before the Lord and asking for a change. It is critical that we live that life. We hear it in our prophet tonight, or this morning. We hear it in the gospel, that Jesus calls people to make a change in their lives. The prophet calls people to make a change in their lives, to change from one way of living and turn from that to another way of life. Repent, the prophet says. Repent, Jesus says. Turn away. Now, you and I know very well that it's one thing to turn away. It's another thing to stay away. If we're changing our habits, if we want to get rid of some bad habit that we have formed, whether it is watching too much television, whether it is trying to give up smoking, whether it is getting finally on that diet or that exercise program, that we turn away, and we might do well for a time. And we find ourselves ever so slowly making our way back to those bad habits, because we've only fulfilled half of the formula. The first half, yes, is to turn away, to change our lives, to alter what we are doing. But the second half is to be close to Jesus. to spend time with Him, to fill it with something else. Because if we cut something out of our lives, that emptiness is going to remain. And that emptiness is what's going to draw us back to whatever it was we were trying to leave, whatever habit, whatever sin we cut out of our lives. And so we have to fill that emptiness with Jesus Christ. That's why Jesus today doesn't call His disciples to change and then leave them. He says, change and now come to me. Now stay close to me. Join yourself to me, and I will do the rest for you. I will make you fishers of men. You don't have to do that. You just have to leave those nets, and I will make something new happen. There is a difference in our prayer when we come before the Lord in His blessed sacrament. There is a difference when we come before the Lord and spend face-to-face time with Him. As different as texting someone and talking to them face-to-face. Or on the telephone and seeing them face-to-face. There is something powerful in that. Anybody fair of skin knows that if you stand outside in the sun for any stretch of time, you are going to feel it on your face and features. The sun will change you. The Son of God changes us when we are in His presence. He has an effect on us, and He makes a difference, and it is powerful. We look to the witness of saints who have gone before us. And I can think especially of John Vianney, parish priest in the 1800s, small village church in France. The people lost the practice of their faith. The parish was in corruption. It was falling apart. He came in there not with marketing ideas, not with some crazy new program. He put before them two things: reconciliation, Eucharistic adoration. These two things will change us. And that parish grew and attracted people from all over to come and be with them, to come and see what was going on. The vibrancy of Ars France built into something that is now worldwide known. God changed those people who yearned for Him, who came close to Him, who not just turned away from sin, but then clamored for His presence. The Lord came so close to us. He wants to be in our presence. He wants us to be in His presence. And He will do what we need done in our lives. The tabernacle is always here. The presence of the Lord is always here. To stop by for a few minutes and to spend that little time with Jesus gives us something that we can get nowhere else. And the temptation that creeps in is the temptation that I find when I pray my Liturgy of the Hours. Tuesday mornings, I don't remember if it's the first or second or third week of the month, whenever it is, there is a phrase that heads up the psalm to be prayed that day that says, surrender to God and He will do everything for you. And I have to admit, I read that phrase and there are many times when I say, really? Really? If I surrender to you, you're going to do everything for me? You're going to do that to-do list that's on my desk? You're going to handle all of those things that I have to make decisions about? You're going to have to grade those papers? You're going to do everything for me? Really? And that's the temptation, isn't it? That God is not going to do for us what He says He will do. That He will not change our lives. That's the temptation. But He does change lives. And He does change times. And He does change places. God's presence changes people and things. I remember the example of my own college seminary and how it changed. We remember St. John Vianney and his parish and how it changed. How can God change our lives? By turning from sin and spending time with Him. I don't know. but I'm willing to find out.